Oh, God.
Hello, good evening. Can I firstly ask that you all put your mics on mute, please?
Yeah.
Could you all mute your microphones, please? Thank you. I'd like to firstly apologise for the late start. I'm going to read out the protocols for remote hearings. First of all, I'd like to welcome you all. And can I request that you only speak when invited to do so by the chair? If you wish to speak, please raise your hand and direct all communication via the chair. Please ensure that your mics are muted when you are not speaking, apart from the chair, who does not need to mute their mic at any stage. And this is to ensure that the meeting is conducted effectively. When speaking, please be succinct and do not exceed the allocated timeframes. If you're referring to a page or picture in a report, please refer to the specific page number. If you are having any technical difficulties, please use the chat function within this call to alert the meeting, and we do have somebody here who will be able to assist you. Please do not use the chat function for putting formal questions to the subcommittee. Any persistent disruptive behaviour will result in removal from the meeting. Once all notices have been considered, any remaining parties will be asked to log out of the hearing. Please can I request that you do so promptly so that councillors will have the opportunity to deliberate and make a decision on each application they have heard. Each party will be notified of the decision within 5 working days. However, I should say if you contact the licensing service tomorrow, you will receive a decision by tomorrow, given the short timeframes that we have for the event. Thank you very much. I would like to now hand over to members and ask them to elect a chair.
I'd like to nominate Councillor Peters.
I'll second that.
Thank you very much. So thank you everyone for being here this evening. In the agenda pack, you will see that there is a order of business. The first order of business being the election of the chair, the second order of business being apologies for absence. Do we have any apologies for absence?
No, Chair, none received.
Wonderful. Do we have any declarations of interest from either Councillor David or Councillor Bouvier?
No, Chair.
No? Wonderful.
No.
Then thank you. Then I should draw everyone's attention to the licensing subcommittee hearing procedure, which is amongst the pack of documents, and it's actually at the end of the first document that is available online. I won't go through that in detail, but moving on to item 5 on the order of business, we have 4 temporary event notices and counter notices for our consideration, albeit the 4th of those, Hackney Marsh Adventure Playground, I understand, has been withdrawn. So before we go any further, I think it might be helpful for us to have a quick round of introductions so we know who everyone is. My name is James Peters. I'm a councillor in the Beauvoir. Councillor Plouvier?
I'm Councillor Emma Plouvier and Councillor for London Fields Ward.
Councillor David?
I'm Councillor David, a councillor in Clissold Ward.
And then if the officers could introduce themselves.
I'm Natalie Williams, Governance Officer.
Amanda North from Legal Services.
I'm David Tewett. I'm presenting a report on behalf of the licensing service.
Thank you. And then for the first item for Leonard Street, for the book club, do we have anyone? PC Hunwick, do you want to introduce yourself as well?
Yeah, PC Hunwick, Police Licensing Unit.
Wonderful. And then so for the book club item, do we have the premises user?
Yes, my name is Adrian Eleferia. I'm the head of operations for Mothership Group. We also have the DPS Milo on this call as well. Are you happy for me to present and call Milo as a witness, or would you like Milo to call me as a witness?
I think we're probably relaxed either way, unless there's anything different.
Okay.
But before we do that, we have Mr. Steele. You're here for the other items, but I think, well, Ms. North, what is the position now with Mr. Steele?
Right, so the first of the two applications, I understand Brendan Desil is the first premises user. He is actually present with Mr. Steele, and so as far as I'm aware, he should be addressing the committee or speaking about his application, and if he needs to call Mr. Steele as a witness. And then with the second application for the same premises, Natalie has received a note from the premises user and that she will be unable to attend. Unfortunately, she has not provided any authorization for Mr. Steele to be a witness or to speak on her behalf. So unless he obtains that, which I don't think is probably likely now at this stage, he won't be able to speak in respect of that application unless she gives the authorization.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Duzolele? Apologies for mangling your name.
Hello?
You're happy for Mr. Steele to speak on your behalf for the temporary event notice for which you're here. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay, I think that's all clear. In which case, we will go back to the book club. Mr. Steele, if you could put yourself back on mute.
Sorry.
It's okay. And how this works is that I will ask the licensing officer to outline the officer report. Then we'll go to PC Hunwick, and then we will go to the premises user. So the licensing officer first, please.
Thank you, Chair. Members are asked to consider a temporary event notice, which has been given in respect of a proposed event at a premises known as the Book Club, which is located at numbers 100 to 106 Leonard Street. The event is proposed to commence from midnight and conclude at 3 AM on the 30th of August 2021. The licensing service received an objection notice from the police on the grounds of the prevention of public nuisance, public safety, and the prevention of public, on the grounds of the prevention of crime and disorder, public safety, and the prevention of public nuisance. The temporary event notice itself is in today's report at Appendix A, and the objection notice at Appendix B. I've got nothing further to add at this stage, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. And the temporary event notice only runs from midnight because there is the premises is currently licensed until midnight. Is that right?
That's correct.
This is essentially a temporary extension from what the license allows, midnight until 3 AM.
Yes, I believe that's the reason for the temporary event notice.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Clevier and Councillor David, did you have any further questions for Mr. Jewett?
What's the difference in the extension of the activities which has been requested from what is the normal activities, licensable activities?
So in the agenda, Appendix C is a copy of the license that shows Sundays as a premises generally licensed for all of the activities till midnight on a Sunday. So from 12 midday till midnight on a Sunday. And so this temporary event notice would then extend that from midnight to 3 AM.
The point I was just saying, so in essence, that means the activities is just the same activities, but just for extended hours. Yeah, okay, got that. Thank you.
Cool. Councillor Pluvier, unless you have anything further, I'll ask PC Hunwick to tell us more about the counter notice that we've received, or rather the objection.
Yeah, Chair, thank you. Chair, since the removal of all restrictions to hospitality on the 24th of July, we've seen venues return to full capacity. As a result of this, alcohol-fuelled crime has risen back to pre-COVID levels. There are also the additional problems in the Shoreditch Special Policy Area with people feeding off the atmosphere of the full venues by congregating in the street, drinking and inhaling nitrous oxide from balloons and generally making the area feel unsafe. The various stages of lockdown reminded us all that, and residents in particular, that this does not need to be the norm, with reduced antisocial behaviour and violence and other alcohol-fuelled crime reducing. Residents in the Leonard Street area have been particularly vocal to us of any additional licensing activity, and a recent temporary event notice was declined at subcommittee in Leonard Street. This particular venue is at the junction of this road with Great Eastern Street, which is obviously where the venue sits. We've taken the view in the police licensing unit that any extension to venues' hours merely extends the nightly duration of these problems. As a result, there is not currently a single venue that has been granted a temporary event notice on Old Street, Curtin Road, Shoreditch High Street or Great Eastern Street for the bank holiday weekend. Those applications have either been withdrawn by the applicants, any late tens have been objected to, or they have been withdrawn at subcommittee, which we sat at last week with some in that area. That's as a result of being faced with obviously this request and the evidence of the additional crime. So we, the police, have a duty to prevent crime and protect the public, which is obviously mirrored in the licensing objectives. And as a result of this, we're unable to support this application.
Thank you. PC Hunwick, I'm acutely aware that whenever we have an application in Lennon Street, that the residents are often submit objections and indeed turn up to licensing subcommittees to voice those and explain those objections. In relation to this particular 10, have we also heard from Lennon Street residents?
We haven't, because I don't think this one has been, I mean, it's not been advertised as such, so it hasn't come to their notice. But obviously, any 10s that do come to their notice, they are, as you're aware, very, very vocal.
Yeah. Have we seen antisocial behaviour on Lennon Street itself?
There is more so at the other end in the actual Leonard Circus, but this is just on our footprint for, I wouldn't say it's an experiment, but basically bank holidays are traditionally a period when everybody puts temporary event notices in. And as I've tried to explain in what I've just said, this is not aimed particularly at any one venue. The whole reason, and I appreciate this, is right on the edge of the spa rather than in it, but the reason that special policy area exists is because of the cumulative effect of all the bars there. And as a result, we've taken this decision where we are able to resist any temporary event notices to do so in order to try and keep a lid on the alcohol-fuelled ASB and crime. And as I say, a lot of residents there have become very used in the last 15 months to a much reduced level of public urination, noise, so on and so forth. So that's why we're resisting all 10s in that area. Places on the periphery, we have negotiated with, as Adrian will tell you, his other 2 venues have got their temporary event notices. So it's not aimed at any particular person. And with the colours, we have engaged with them, reduced their hours, but we just feel that with the book club and its size and where it is, that we have to apply the same policy. So that's my submission, Chair.
Okay, thank you. And then just one last thing, and this might be for you, might be for Mr. Stewart. On Lennon Street, the licensed premises have all, I think, or predominantly had terminal hours of midnight or so. There aren't any with late licenses that will go up to 73 o'clock. Is that right?
Sorry, Chair. Was that question for me? Could you repeat that, please? Sorry.
Yeah, so it's just we're essentially being asked to allow licensable activity to continue until 3 a.m. Are there other premises on Leonard Street in which you've got very late licenses?
I would say that on a Sunday, I doubt there are very many, but I would have to just have a quick look at our records. None spring to mind. Maybe across the road from the book club, there's now a hotel, but I'm not sure what the hours are for non-residents at that particular site.
I mean, we've got the pub and the little bar there. I don't think that's particularly late. That's directly
right.
opposite the book club.
The Griffin.
Griffin,
I don't think that would go very late on a Sunday.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Councillor David, Councillor Pluvier, did you have any further questions for PC Hamlet?
Yes, Councillor Pluvier, do you want to go first? Or? Okay, essentially, I heard the submissions about, the going back to pre-lockdown levels, but I think surely we all understand that everything in society cannot remain the same. If businesses are opening, the night economy is opening, we can't expect everyone's going to be locked indoors. There will be people going out to have, gatherings and all that. If there is no other, should I say, event or venue which is going to be opening or which is going to be open within those hours on the same day, surely I don't think this is going to pose that much more of a risk to whatever is existing at the moment. Because if I get it right, that's what you're saying, that there is no other venue which is going to be open on that same Leonard Street within those hours which this is being requested for. Is that correct?
Not on Leonard Street, but you've got to remember, as I've submitted, the book club is right on the junction with Great Eastern Street, and there are a number of venues along Great Eastern Street that do have longer hours. So it's proximity. It's no more than about 50 yards from Great Eastern Street. So it's that proximity that we're speaking about. In addition, obviously, to the problems we've got with residents. So Leonard Street's a long street. It depends on where you are on Leonard Street, and this is right with Great Eastern Street.
Okay, so I mean, we haven't had objections from residents, as I think that was made clear for whatever reasons. Is there anything in terms of mitigating circumstances which the applicant could put in place which would give you a bit more reassurance in terms of mitigating these risks? We can't just say plainly everyone should just not do anything. We have to consider the human rights aspect of things for people to enjoy their property.
Well, I mean, they can up to the hours they've already got license for. I mean, nobody's saying they can't do that. What we're objecting to is an extension of those hours and the problems that excessive drinking beyond those hours can cause in the Shoreditch area. So, as I say, this is nothing specific for the book club. This is something we've done for the protection of the public and to try and reduce antisocial behaviour. I mean, what needs to be considered is the licensing objectives. And we feel that for so very, very long, Shoreditch has been allowed to extend its hours, various bars, etc., which has increased the length of time these problems exist for. Now, the question is, do you want the police to do something about it? And by that, I mean, we've got various different things we've tried. We've flooded the street with people in yellow, etc., all sorts of things. This is something new that we're trying for the bank holiday weekend. So, we either do something about it or we don't, and we would be negligent if we didn't try.
Ms. North, you wanted to come in?
Yes, I just wanted to clarify that local residents are not going to make any representations for a temporary event notice. It's only the premises user that will make any representations, or the police, or the environmental protection teams. Those are the only two objectors that will make representations. So literally you have to ask any questions to the police for clarification. they've made it clear that they're experiencing difficulties at the moment, and it's not a case of people not being allowed to go out at night. It's more to do with the impact on the whole area and trying to reduce the overall antisocial behaviour and drinking related crime in the area, which has now got out of control. They can't control it, so that's the reason why the police are objecting. I hope that helps.
I'm sure it does. Councillor David, do you have anything further?
No, nothing for now. If something else comes to mind, then I'd raise that. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Plevier.
I don't think I have anything to ask. Thank you.
Okay, wonderful. So in which case, Mr. Eleftheriou, Mr. Dileversky, who wants to kick off?
If you don't mind, I'll kick off. First of all, I'd like to thank the subcommittee for inviting us to have this hearing. I do appreciate the hard work you put in, and including Neil. I do know how stretched the police are at the moment, and do appreciate your time, giving up the time to hear this for us. I just want to start off about us as an operator, and I'm going to sort of limit this does go across the board to our other venues, but I'm going to try and limit this to being specifically for Leonard Street operation. Milo's a member of my team. He's worked with Mothership Group for in excess of 5 years. I've worked in excess of, I think, 9 years now. Between Milo and myself, Milo used to be my deputy at the Queen of Hoxton when I was a GM there. We as a group are a very active member of the local pub watch in the Shoreditch area. We were one of the pilot venues in our group to also opt in as a voluntary late night economy, as we could see that, you know, there is an impact on venues in the late night economy, and for such we should be paying something towards that, be it mitigating crime, paying for police, paying for urinals to prevent street urination, etc. We also attend the weekly police briefings, which have started up again in Hoxton Square. They're invaluable for not only us as a venue, but also from feedback from the police. It gives them a chance to almost tell us what to watch out for, any known criminals, any people that may be breaching the bail conditions, registration numbers to watch out for, and just what generally is on the rise from their information that they get given. We also participate in the Snow Radio, or the CCTV system, which enables us to report directly to CCTV any immediate crime taking place, or anything we feel might be taking place, for them to relay it to the police as they see fit. All of our security are SIA badged. We tend to have more than one manager running a shift, especially on busy nights, just so that we can have eyes on the venue and also outside the venue. We've also got many policies in place that we've worked with our neighbours and also fellow businesses as well, to help mitigate anything from litter, street urinating, and also general dispersal from our premises after. We don't close our doors at a terminal hour and say goodbye. We're actively on the street helping to disperse people, making sure no one's come into difficulty, cleaning up our premises and the immediate area, and also our security and staff are at premises for a good hour plus after our terminal hour, feeding back any information that we get relating to outside. In the recent months, we've been on call, I think at 4 AM one evening when a person was knocked down by a vehicle on the junction of Great Eastern Street, helping to support that. Other times people have been intoxicated on Great Eastern Street, and our staff or security leaving the premises have also notified us of that, and we've attempted to help where we can. Operationally on the night, we operate at 10 as if it was a normal busy weekend night. We don't scrimp on security. Most often we do have extra security on the temporary events notice, obviously because we do have to adhere to the licensing policies, making sure that not only our venue is safe, but also our patrons are safe, and also people that walk past our premises or immediately connected to the premises, including our neighbours that we do have an open dialogue with, in terms of keeping our noise down, not so much venue noise, but also noise within our smoking area, which we reduced to only 20 people being outside. Trying to move on vehicles that tend to pull up on the corner of Great Eastern Street by the Pret, which is a wide pavement, which is notorious for cars pulling up with music blaring out and selling balloons. We report these number plates onto the snow radio to assist, and we try and disperse them as safely as our security can do. This also includes what seems to be on the rise, which is scooters with battery pack speakers that tend to come on corners near premises, near where activity, on routes to the station, etc., trying to sell balloons, nitrous oxide, because people are drawn to loud music once they come out of a club. Things that we have which are directly sort of affect our venue are these cars that want to slow down past the queue to try and entice our customers. Normally when our security operatives, which do wear body-worn cameras, sort of approach, that's the only reason why these cars actually disperse. These cars don't leave the areas. I'm sure PC Neil would say they would just go on to the next destination. It's been hard for us as a venue. We still don't have the after work crowd. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday nights, the book club's normally closed. We've closed on Sundays now, just without our locals and people back at work. The only time we can get revenue is on a weekend night, and that's why we do need to take advantage of these long bank holiday weekends in terms of our revenue. But at the same time, we're mindful. The book club has been 10 plus years on Leonard Street under the same operator. We're in this for the long haul. All of our temporary events notices are done in our name, not external promoters. We're not going to jeopardize our license for one event or for one individual. As I say, we're here for the long run. We like to think we're part of the community, not just in terms of licensed premise, but also in assisting the police, licensing our local residents, neighbours and fellow businesses. One thing that we did find a bit misleading about this objection was, as PC Neil has said, we normally enter a negotiation in terms of the terminal hour that we would like to extend to. Colours, we have dropped an hour just to assist the police in the Hoxton area. And we do this because we're mindful of the amount of bars and clubs that are kicking out at the same time. Those of you who can cast your mind back to the 10 p.m. curfew, it was a stark reminder of why licensing law changed in order to stagger these dispersals and clubs so that we don't kick out the same people at the same time. And we would have liked that dialogue to have happened, or for any, say, restrictions and capacity to be placed as a condition rather than a straightforward objection. I'm also mindful that PC Neil has said that this isn't aimed at us, it's aimed as part of a wider project to try and reduce the crime in the area, and that's his job, that's the job of the police, and we don't take this personally. We would just like to have had a bit of a communication, because an extra 1-2 hours over a terminal hour is a difference between us kicking out a staggered crowd, which would leave throughout the night post 1 o'clock onwards, rather than at midnight. I'm sure you imagine at midnight we're going to be kicking out a carnival party that actually kicks off at 7 p.m. Straight out onto the street. When they're in our venue, we can control them, we can control the capacity, we can control what goes on outside of our venue. These people aren't going to go home at midnight on bank holiday. Unfortunately, they're going to chase the next party, be it trying to get into another venue, or if they can't because doors have closed, etc., they're going to just hang around corners, try and find the off licenses, try and find balloons, and other things like that. We do operate our venues after a certain time. We stop people going outside to smoke 1 hour before our venue would normally close. We also don't do any re-entry 1 hour before our venue closes. We rearranged the barriers to disperse people straight onto Great Eastern Street rather than towards the Leonard Street Circle and past our neighbours' doors. We also try and point people in the right direction to the transport hubs, including Old Street, which is probably the nearest, but also dispersing people to the relevant stations like Shoreditch High Street, which is on Night Tube, and also Liverpool Street Station. As I say, we are more than happy to accept any restrictions the police would like to put on us for this event, be it reducing our hours from 3 o'clock to maybe 2 o'clock. As I say, we'd like to have had that opportunity beforehand, but I totally understand the reason by the police, and I can't fault them for trying to do something that, you know, we as taxpayers obviously help them to do. But I just don't want us to get to a situation in Shoreditch. We're a victim of our own success in terms of nighttime economy. And I think the day we stop chatting, communicating, passing information to each other will be a very sad day indeed. I believe that's everything on my list. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. Was your colleague planning to say anything?
I don't know. I'll hand over if Milo wants to tell him just about what he's put in place since he's been at book club, maybe.
Before you do that, Ms. North, do you want to say something?
Through the chair, I don't know if you would like to ask Chair about when, if they've had any previous temporary events recently or prior to that, what's the outcome of that was or not?
Yes, if someone wants to answer that, that would be helpful.
Would you like me to just answer? Since we came back, we did actually put in a temporary events notice for Freedom Day, which was on the Monday. We did that for all 3 venues. The plan of that was to have at least one venue operating for basically our regular customers, which in the end we chose as the Queen of Hoxton. So we did a smaller event that was ticketed only at the book club, which meant we didn't need to increase our terminal hours on that. Prior to that, which was talking probably 15 months ago, we've never had a temporary events objected, primarily because we already have a very late license anyhow, and the book club is the venue we have that we only really use our temporary events notices for bank holidays as we go later during the week, and it's not really worth us opening later in terms of the book club, that is.
Okay, thank you. Did Mr. Dilovesky, did you have anything that you wanted to add?
I think Councillor Pluvier has a question.
Ah, sorry. Yeah.
Could you just confirm what the current hours of the licence are for me? So Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
So Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, we operate Fridays, Saturdays until 3 AM, Sundays until midnight. And
Thursdays?
Thursdays is till 1 AM, I believe. The actual license that's been sent is our old license.
Okay.
The book club does actually operate on 2 licenses. We choose to operate the 3 AM at weekends about probably 3 or 4 years ago now. Seems like only yesterday.
So that's what's wrong. Okay, so yeah. Thursdays 1 o'clock.
Thursdays 1 o'clock. Friday and Saturdays normally operate till 3. Sundays is midnight, but we don't tend to open Sundays anyhow. Normally 8 o'clock is the time that we close on a Sunday.
Okay, and you have events booked for Thursday, Friday, and Saturday of the bank holiday weekend.
Yeah, the book club operates mostly in-house events. If we do anything that's not in-house, it's a collaboration on a Saturday. But we use the same promoters. We pretty much have a pool of promoters. Some of them have been with us for 10 years, for example, the Friday nights.
Okay.
Yeah.
Could you, actually, I think it would be helpful for us to, if you could tell us a little bit about the event that's planned for the bank holiday for the 10 that we're talking about here.
Yes, so this is again one of our regular promoters. He wanted to do a carnival themed party, which is quite a lot of Afro beats and soca music, which he sometimes plays on a Saturday night. It's very, very laid back. Ground floor, for example, it's sort of like a chilled vibes, and then we try and keep the basement as the proper sort of dancing area. As I say, we've known this promoter for about 4 years. He does regular events with us, and it's a carnival theme event. We only actually sell these events primarily online to about 90%, and we do hold back 10% for people that come on the door. But as I say, we try and keep all of our venues themed differently. The Queen of Hoxton is normally very house orientated. Colours is more down the LGBT routes in terms of what we program there, and the book club is normally hip hop and R&B based, and that's really what we're known for, really.
Thank you. And just there's one thing that you actually said that I'm not sure I quite understood. Were you saying that if you have to stop the event at midnight, there will be? I heard what you said about people will go on elsewhere. And if they can't get in elsewhere, then they'll hang out on the street with booze from the offie or mattress outside. But are you also saying that there are lots of other venues that discharge people at midnight, so you'll just be adding to a wave of people?
Yeah, there's quite, since the late night levy came in, there's I mean, I don't know all the venues, and correct me if I'm wrong, David, you might know, but the condition of late night levy is to surrender your license if you don't want to pay it after. So we do know that there's quite a lot of sort of late night bars that will be kicking out. But I'm sure Neil will tell you that Shoreditch is full, especially I mean, the bounce back literally overnight at Shoreditch. I think the issue, especially on the first weekend, was people trying to disperse people from the streets, even at 4 a.m., 5 a.m. The police found it very hard, just because people want to come back out again and probably don't want to go in. And okay, you know, our venue is one of the smaller venues than, you know, compared to the Queen of Hoxton. But I feel that, you know, going a bit later than midnight from 7 would probably mean that normally by about 1 o'clock people start leaving, they start trickling out, and rather than throwing out a full venue, maybe we can stagger it just to disperse people.
Okay.
As I say, most of the tickets actually online. I think we've sold 186 so far as of this evening. For the event, which will obviously stop at midnight if we don't get this temporary event.
Thank you. Mr. Tilversky, did you have anything you wanted to add?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think Adrian pretty much said everything that I wanted to say. I would want to add maybe that we do have a refusal book behind the bar where we monitor how drunk our customer get. So, you know, we've got a duty of care where we make sure that they don't leave the venue intoxicated to the state where the crime would happen, or any incidents like that. So, you know, I think we as a venue have got quite tight grip on our customers in terms of that. You know, we've been actively speaking to the hotel across the road, making sure that they're happy, you know, the street is clean, there's no urine and stuff like that. So, you know, we try in our best, and we do in our best to prevent those things from happening. But apart from that, I've got nothing else to add. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Councillor David, you have a point or question? Okay.
Yes. Out of curiosity, I mean, I'm not expecting that you know every single venue operating close to yours, but are you aware of? I mean, are you in contact with the nearest operating venues on that night, and do you know what times they're likely to be closing? So, for example, if I get it right, Mr. Honwick said there is one 50 yards away from yours or something. Are you aware of which pinch points they're likely to be on that night between 12 and 3 a.m.?
We have the Griffin, which is probably the nearest to us. Beyond that, it's the other side of the Leonard Street Triangle. They're a bar, so I believe, I'm not sure what they've got on a Sunday. It's either a 10:30 or 11. But I don't know if that license has changed. It's been a while since I've had a Friday, Saturday night off, and normally Sunday I'm relaxing at home. Another bar in the area is probably on the corner of Curtin Road and Great Eastern Street, which is the Old Blue Last. Beyond that, I think they would probably have a similar license. Probably about 100, 200 meter walk down Great Eastern Street, there's Trapeze, which I believe is a later cabaret venue. And then obviously 5-minute walk down the road is the Queen of Hoxton, which is one of our venues. That's sort of on the tail end, literally just off this map that's been appended to the police objections. And beyond that, it's the hotel, which I don't know. I think it's probably guests only after a certain time. And then just some of the restaurants that are directly opposite. I think Gloria's on the corner. Yeah. We do actually, we are in active communication. We have a WhatsApp group, which most venues and licensing are on. That's basically any untoward people happening. We can send images to warn other venues immediately, as well as borrowing ice and bottles of beer gas and stuff. It's quite a good deterrent so that we know what's about to approach our door. And then obviously the CCTV snow radio, which we can call up and identify our venue.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. I think, Pizzy Hamnick, I do see you've got your hand up, but before I bring you in, I think I'll just say that, at this point we'll pass to the sort of more discursive part of the meeting. And I think your hand up is probably to respond to something that was said, but if you could also talk to us about whether there is at this point, any negotiation with what has been applied for that the police wouldn't object to going beyond the midnight terminal hour for the license.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. The point I was going to clarify was that I did speak to Milo and explain where we were. So it's not as if we've not had any talk, like any conversation regarding what we're trying to do as the police. So I did speak to Milo regarding it. As I say, we have tried to tailor this specifically for the main area in the middle of Shoreditch to try and minimise the number of bars that are affected by what we've tried to do. And as Adrian's already pointed out, Queen of Hoxton, that is sufficiently far away that we gave them the hours they asked for without any objection. Colours being in Hoxton Square a little bit closer and a different clientele as well. I spoke regularly to John, and again, we agreed an hour off. So it's been tailored for each individual place. As I try to explain to Milo, because of their location, even though they're just slightly off of where we're talking about, there is a number of bars there which we've got, as Adrian has alluded to. You've got Old Blue Last, Hoxton 7, Floripa, Trapeze. You've got the hotel, your Iron Bloom, and for the life of me, I can't remember what the one is with the 2 underground trains on the roof.
And then, Underground, is it?
Yeah, Village Underground. And then they're right also on the junction, literally stepped across. You've got the whole of Curtin Road with everything that's down there, Baldy Balderson, you name it, it's down there. So we have tailored this to the locations where they are. So we have tried to be clear, we have applied something to this. It's not just been right, everybody, you've got an address in Shoreditch, you're not having it. We do appreciate what Adrian has said regarding trading hours, but as police, we can't take that into consideration. We're trying to have a policy in place here where we can try and minimise people's or the threat. And by his own admission, those very problems that I've put in my submission regarding cars, balloons, all the rest of it, it exists everywhere. And as Adrian said, although they do the best to deal with it, it's there on their doorstep.
Okay, thank you. So just is there anything beyond midnight that would be acceptable to the police?
Well, the problem is where it is and Leonard Street and the problems we've had on it. I mean, if we could have gone and negotiated on the hours, I would have felt that it would have been a goer. And as I said, I've spoken to colours, all the rest of it, and people that are on the periphery generally, yes. But because of the problems we've had with, I mean, it was just a pop-up restaurant without music. We had councillors let us go into the mayor, you name it. It was when they found out about it, it was like the blue touch paper had been lit, and because they're in Leonard Street, we felt that we had to be a little bit more sensitive, because everybody points the finger at that police as you know, we're damned if we do, we're damned if we don't. So, like I say, as a group, I mean, I've met Adrian before. I'm aware of their operation, etc. As a venue, generally speaking, they do not give us any problems. However, they are part of the bigger problem, and in order to try and solve the bigger problem, that's why we've attempted for this bank holiday weekend to limit who gets any hours, and that really, Chair, is the basis of my submission.
Okay, and can you address this point about if the terminal hour is midnight, then they're just going to be turning people out when a lot of other people are being turned out, and in part because of the late night levy?
Well, no, not necessarily. I mean, the late night levy, people haven't been paying it because the invoices have been going out. But obviously, the local authorities all accept that it's unfair for people to pay it because they're not actually trading beyond midnight because they've all been closed. So the late night levy pot is essentially, as I understand it, fairly dry. As a result,
but the point was that people have abandoned their licences.
No, very, very few. I think David would probably support this. Very, very few people. I could probably name them on the fingers of one hand. Stoke Head, I think, was one, took an hour off. Very, very few people reduced their hours as a result of the late night levy, because it's more lucrative to pay it and trade than it is to reduce the hours.
So, Stuart, were you going to come in there?
I'd agree with what PC Hardwick says there. Although this is just off the top of my head, thinking back to when we introduced the levy, I don't think we had that many sites that reduced their hours in this particular part of the borough.
The variations that came through the office were very, very few, weren't they, David?
Yeah, and the other thing to add, we're in the 4th year of the levy now, so we've had a lot of licences that have since, if you like, taken the place of those that were reduced.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Pluvio.
Okay, PC Hunwick, forgive me for this, but what we have is it's a slightly confusing picture, because this is a Sunday night, but it's a bank holiday. So most of the venues will not have late licenses on a Sunday night, but it's a bank holiday. And what you're saying is not that all tenders have been turned down for this night, or you've tried to negotiate, but that there's been a kind of patch by patch approach depending on where they are in Shoreditch. Is that correct?
Well, yeah. I mean, essentially, the SBA, and it's not just for this night, because it's the bank holiday weekend. We've had temporary event notices submitted for the Friday, Saturday, and the Sunday. As it happens, the book club have just, because they've got quite late hours on the Friday and the Saturday, have only sought to extend their Sunday hours. But this policy has been for all 3 days, for all the tens in that area. We've objected to, and people have withdrawn, or it's gone to subcommittee last week, etc. So where people are on the periphery, we've tried to talk to them and agree reduced hours to facilitate them where possible. However, as I've explained, the book club, because of its unique position.
But the problem with its unique position is that you've explained that in terms of the residents, not in terms of, so the public nuisance element you have addressed, but not really the other. Is that what you're arguing here, effectively?
Only because it's an extension of hours, and because of its locality, 50 yards away from the junction and all the venues I've just mentioned, it will have a cumulative effect by having the later hours. Not all those venues have got a 12 midnight finish on a Sunday, because obviously not all those licenses were given at the same time. So committees' opinions of the licensing at the time a license was applied for probably has been affected by the cumulative effect. So an older license will probably have later hours. So they're not all the same. They're not comparing like with like.
I understand that, but okay, I'm just trying to understand, because as I say, you changed what you said in terms of the policy, and I'm not entirely clear what the problem is about this particular venue on this particular night. This venue will be open till 3 o'clock for the 2 preceding nights. Is that part of the problem? I mean, I don't know.
Well, it'll be. I mean, a lot of venues in Shoreditch on a Friday and Saturday are going to have licences to 1, 2, 3, 3:30.
Yeah.
I think it's possibly the latest one there. So
Yeah,
we
so
can't.
we can't. Sunday. So we're talking about the Sunday night, and the policy has been to stop. Initially, you said all the Tenses in the area.
All tens for those days that have been applied for.
Okay, so that.
Okay, so if the book club had applied for an extra 2 hours on a Friday, Saturday, and the Sunday, which they could have put on all the same 10, we would still be here talking. So it's only purely because they've gone for the Sunday, but we've done this for the whole weekend. We've not agreed to any extension of hours.
Okay, that's that. So that's back to where we were.
That's a sorry, council. I mean that's
right.
Where we are. We've not picked and choose days for the whole weekend. No, but we've not. And to be fair, most venues have withdrawn that when we've explained it.
In that case, then I'd like to ask this venue why, in view of this, you haven't withdrawn as your compatriots have.
As I say, when we got the notice, obviously the objection. Milo spoke with Neil. We were told it was where we were located because there's lots of crime. There's lots of balloon sellers outside our premises. Now, us being closed, I don't feel will have an impact on the immediacy. I do understand that the more venues that are open and different times will put some pressure on, but short of us picking up our venue and moving it out of this map, and if all of the venues within this area are closed or have not been granted 10, then these people are going to go somewhere else, and are they going to go to the venues that are open later that have been granted the 10? This is where I can't get my head around, and when we start the night at 7. And bearing in mind, this is a different night. We've got a music policy, so we're not doing the same night over the 3 nights. This is a ticketed event we put on that seemed to be, quite taken up because of the climate.
I understand all that, but what I'm asking you is, and you say you have the WhatsApp group and the pub watch and all the rest of it, is, given that the police have asked for this and other venues have decided to support the police policy. Why are you not, in terms of what is your argument with the other places that have?
The others haven't actually contacted us, and there's nothing on our WhatsApp group. There's nothing being announced on the pub watch, where we would have thought that something like this would have been brought to our attention at the last pub watch meeting, which was last month, unless this is something that's just been decided overnight. And as I say,
in the local press, the police policy.
The blanket with the map
about the police coming down on Tenses and trying to take some action in the Shoreditch area. I believe it's been in the local press.
I mean, I live in Dalston, but I don't really read the local press. But yeah, I think where I'm coming from, it's our 3 venues that tailor for the different people. There has been that conversation, and when we get an objection, it's normally picking up the phone and seeing what we can do, or will you accept a 2, or will you accept a 3? Which is
so that's happened, has it? With 2 venues on that night.
It's happened with Colours, yeah. Colours, I think they went for a 4 a.m. And they've agreed with the police to go to 3 a.m. And Queen of Hoxton, I don't know, Neil, correct me. I don't know if Queen of Hoxton got the normal.
They got what they asked. They got what they asked for because they were sufficiently far away from the area, so we gave it to them.
Yeah. Right.
So the Queen of Hoxton is where?
The top of Curtin Road, junction of Curtin Road and Worship Street.
It's virtually, Councillor, it's virtually on the boundary with the City of London. So it's the far end of Curtin Road. So there's literally nothing. There's no venues between Great Eastern Street and the Queen of Hoxton.
Okay.
Like there's a pub on the left, I think it is, but it's not. You know,
it's a much quieter area, isn't it?
Yeah. It's a completely. It's literally you walk off of the footprint of the Shoreditch Triangle, and you'll be somewhere completely different.
Yeah.
Okay.
Councillor Kluge, I'll bring in Councillor David if that's okay.
Yeah, I think you mentioned something about the financial advantages that would bring to the venue. Is that, I mean, are we open to, is it a discussion now? Because I think there's part of it which would be directed for PC Hunwick and part for Mr. Eleftheriou. Did I get that correctly?
Yes, you did get it correct.
Yes. Is this the open discussion, or should I direct it? Okay. So yeah, you mentioned that there is some financial advantages for you in terms of you know, how your business might actually need this. Is that, you know, how dire is that? And then the second issue, I think that would be for PC Hunwick, would be if there are no tens in that particular area, and venues are just operating under normal hours. If this is the exemption or exception to that, how much impact is that going to have? Because this is Carnival weekend. There isn't going to be the main carnival, and I think there is some point in the fact that people will go out to do, you know, to catch their fun. If we do have them in one specific area, which is sort of monitored per se, it's better than having unlicensed raves and people kind of congregating in places which are not monitored. So what's your view on that? So, yeah.
I think, Councillor, that London's going to be inundated with unlicensed raves, whether the book club has their 10 on a Sunday or not. You know, we're talking about 160 people. If you accept Adrian's argument that are going to be taken off the street to 3 a.m, I don't think that's going to cause the police any less problem with unlicensed raves. As I say, from a financial point of view, that's not a consideration that licensing takes into account. That's not one of the 4 licensing objectives. So that can't really be taken into consideration. I understand the pain that venues are feeling, but you can't issue a license just because somebody's going to make the money out of it.
Yeah, yes, I get hold on, I get that. I think one of my Councillor Pluvers did ask the reason, the point where other venues have voluntarily refused or withdrawn their licenses. It's not a license criteria for a license applicant to withdraw because others have not. So it's just testing the waters.
No, I mean, yeah, I mean, the thing with it is, if this works, you know, we see a reduction in longer term crime over the night. Okay, then, and this 10 is given, then if we then look to do this in the future, everybody's going to be standing in subcommittee saying, well, the book club got their 10 last time. So it will no longer be something that the police can do.
But then for this specific occasion, there isn't that much of an impact. Not for the future, but for now.
But when you say that, there's not going to be a specific impact. But if everybody got their 10, we'd be having a very different discussion. The point is that we're now having a discussion about one venue, which I've given reasons why it was included in our overall impact in the Shoreditch Triangle. That many other operators are going to look to this decision and say, well, why did I do what I appear to be the right thing and withdraw my 10? So, as I say, we have tailored this for individual premises, mostly a blanket thing in that area. But as I say, we have further out extended the hours, etc., for other venues.
So, Ms. North, I think I saw you gesturing when we were talking about whether the financial health of the premises or the business occupying the premises is relevant to our considerations here. Did you have anything to add?
No, I don't. I think what PC Hanwick has said is correct. We're not looking at the financial impact. It's more whether, you know, we have to be satisfied based on the police's objection whether or not it's warranted to issue a counter notice or not.
Okay, so I suggest that we don't pursue that line of inquiry any further. And I'm also aware that we've been sitting here for the best part of an hour, and that we should call this discussion to an end. Councillor Pluvier and Councillor David, did you have any other points that you wanted to cover off before we do so?
No.
No, just that we're making decisions based on this specific application, if I get it correctly, not future. So is that correct?
Well, Ms. North can talk to this as well, but I assume that it's relevant that the police are trying to pursue a policy of that would lead to a reduction in impacts on licensing objectives.
Yes, everything that the chair has said is correct, and we are only considering this particular event, not the long-term future of the premises. So it's just this particular event, whether or not you think it's justified for that event to go ahead until 3 AM on Sunday morning or Monday morning, and whether or not you feel that if you're going to issue the counter notice, if you feel that that is a justifiable reason and that you've asked the police all the questions you want to make sure you're satisfied you're making the right decision.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Eleftheriou, did you have anything that you wanted to say to sum up?
No, I just, as I say, once again, I want to appreciate, I do understand, Neil, you know, your job is a very hard one, and your team, and you do engage with Shoreditch premises very actively, especially at pub watches, and it's much appreciated. And this is 110. We're not going to be upset. You know, life goes on, and we'll continue working with the police. And no doubt, at some point, we'll probably be at subcommittee again. But it's great that we have this forum where we can speak, and your concerns obviously feedback to us for our general operating hours and how we can, you know, mitigate those concerns in the future, because we are in this for the long run. We've been operators as a group 10+ years in the area when it was sleepy and quiet. Good old days.
That's all very good to hear, and thank you for that. And PC Hanwick, any final comments?
No, I was going to say Adrian's got a very good memory, if you can remember it when it was sleepy and quiet. Trying to think we're sleeping quiet in Hackney now. Yeah, no, as I say, it's like I say, it's nothing against the venue. There really is, generally speaking, our problem is not with the book club. It is the general problem in Hackney. Nobody else can address it, only the police. We've not tried this before. It may be something that works, it may not, but we're trying. And the day the police give up trying is the day we're all done for, whether people like it or not.
Yeah, I think we can all agree with that. Councillor Pluvier and Councillor David, before we close this agenda item, do you have any need for further clarification on any of the matters that we've had here today? No? Okay. In which case, I think that we will have to retire to consider, which we will do at the end of this meeting. We will hear the other applications before doing so. So, Mr. Eleftheriou and Mr. Ileversky, if you want to stay, you're perfectly entitled to do so. If you want to sign off, you're also entitled to do so. But before you do that, we're going to hear from Ms. North.
Yes, sorry, just to say that because this is a temporary event notice, the decision would have to probably be issued by the end of tomorrow. So they will be hearing about the overall decision, the summary, by tomorrow morning, but the actual decision itself would be issued hopefully by the end of tomorrow, so that you have at least the 24 hours in advance of the event that's required. So just to clarify, thank you.
Lovely, thank you.
Thank you very much. So if you want to sign off now, then feel free to do so.
Lovely, thank you.
Thanks. And then we will move on to the next agenda item, which is basement of 8 Stoke Newington Road. And this is for a 10 for between the 28th of this month and the 29th of this month. Mr. Tewitt, would you like to tell us about this?
Thank you very much, Chair. So members are asked to consider this temporary event notice, which is given in respect of a proposed event at 8 Stoke Newington Road. As you've already mentioned, Chair, the event is proposed to commence at 9 PM on the 28th of August and conclude at 4 AM on the 29th of August. We received an objection from the police, which is in today's agenda at Appendix B, with the temporary event notice itself at Appendix A. Thank you, Chair.
Wonderful, thank you very much. PC Hannock.
I'm sure he'll return very shortly. If we can just bear with us.
He tried to take himself off mute when he hit the hang out button. While we're waiting, Councillor Pluvier, Councillor David, did you have any further questions for Mr. Tuitt?
No, none of no.
Welcome back, PC Hannock.
Yeah, sorry, my computer has just decided that it's no longer going to speak to the Metropolitan Police, so I'm just switching to my phone where I got a copy of my submission. So if you wait 2 seconds, I pressed the wrong button, it wipes everything out. So stand by. Okay, see if this works. Okay, I might have to go sideways to read this. Okay, I've got my glasses on as well. I'll come back. Stand by. And what marvels of technology and being an older person. Come here. Okay, right. The venue at basement 8 Stoke Newington Road is owned and leased by Mr. Ian Steele. Mr. Steele has a very long history of non-compliance with the Licensing Act, and most recently was found to be selling alcohol and carrying out regulated entertainment on the 11th and the 31st of July when unlicensed to do so. As a result of this, we objected to a temporary event notice that was submitted by Mr. Steele for the 7th and 8th of August. This was heard by committee on the 3rd of August. Due to the way the hearing was going, Mr. Steele withdrew the 10 at the summing up stage. A number of suggestions were made by the chair, and Mr. Steele also stated that he needed to rebuild trust with the police. Mr. Steele subsequently emailed on the 11th of August, only a few days later, stating that he stated he would undertake to obtain a personal licence so as to properly understand the Licensing Act. And my colleague, PC Giles, who dealt with this hearing, replied that he should not submit any more 10s until this was passed. Mr. Steele had also stated that he would just submit 10s in the name of the people, would have people submit their 10s in their name, and we would promptly pass 10s until 4 AM for the following 3 Saturdays, of which these 10s are just 1 and 2 of them. Whilst the chair will be aware that each licence is dealt with on its own merits, we feel that this is merely a proxy application. The venue is still owned and run by Mr. Steele, and he has had no real engagement with us, nor have we seen any evidence of progression of the personal licence matter. To issue this 10 is merely to reward the venue with business it does not deserve at this time, when it has not yet proven itself to be worthy of trust. We believe that the premises user for this 10 will be better placed booking their event elsewhere, and for this reason we maintain our objection.
Thank you very much. You mentioned that Mr. Steele committed to obtain a personal licence. Is that right?
Yeah, we received an email from Mr. Steele. Basically, there was a number of points that were on there, of which, you know, he would submit a 696 whenever an event was applied for, which was the old risk assessment form, which we don't actually use anymore. There was another little bits on there, but the main thing was that he would just get people to apply for 10s in their own name. And at the bottom of it, he agreed that he would, because he didn't understand the licensing matters, would obtain a personal license so that he could do so. PT Giles replied stating that, you know, given that the events of subcommittee, that he shouldn't really be submitting any future 10s until he's passed that license. Yeah. And that was the start and the beginning of his engagement period.
Okay, so
So we then in quick succession had 3 10s submitted, all for 4 AM finishes. all the birthday parties in different people's names for every Saturday, which was what Mr. Steele was doing himself.
Okay. And the fact that that we've got these tens in other people's names, what Mr. Steele is here talking to these people, presumably suggests to you, like, it reinforces the impression that they're applications by Mr. Steele. Is that right?
Well, absolutely. I mean, the fact that he's involved and he's sitting there at subcommittee rather than just the premises user would suggest to me that he is organising, running, being paid for the event, etc. And the 10 is just in another person's name, which is just a proxy application. Irrespective if that birthday party or the birthday is real, the point is that you are licensing that club to operate till 4 a.m. in the morning, when he's clearly been shown as unfit to run a club, and has been caught selling alcohol on numerous occasions when he has no licence to do so.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Cleary and Councillor David, do you have any questions for PC Hunwick?
I would like to ask if, for example, I mean, let's just say it is Mr. Steele making these applications through proxies. Is that actually the criteria you're standing on as an objection, or is it you've got one of the specific issues, public security and the rest of them? Is that just a specific issue? I think if I get it correctly, people are entitled to apply based in their own names. Is that just, or do you have any wider concerns?
My concerns are that this is just a front so that the club cannot operate, until 4 a.m. when it's unlicensed to do so. Several previous applications for a full premise license have been declined at subcommittee for this venue. So to allow it to run on tens under the auspices of being for somebody's birthday party, when the actual owner of the club has been caught carrying out unlicensed activity, would just seem to me to reward the venue. Otherwise, anybody could just apply in other people's name and just circumvent what is right. I get what Councillor's saying, but where do you draw the line? Just allowing somebody to do what they want just by changing the name on the temporary event notice?
Surely the person who applies for the license would be the one who would take the responsibility for the license. So in as much as it might appear to be, I mean, I'm just trying to be fair here to test the different angles from which this could be, irrespective of if it is going through Mr. Steele or not. That the person who applies is the person responsible. Apart from that fact, is there one of the statutory criteria you're relying on, apart from the fact that it might be a proxy?
Well, the fact of the matter is, I mean, the temporary event notice was designed to enable people to carry out licensable activities, things like church fetes and school fetes and that sort of thing. It wasn't designed for people to run nightclubs on. Now, if it's a proxy or not, if Mr. Steele has been deemed by subcommittee to not be fit to have a license, then if you've got members of the public that have got no experience whatsoever of running a nightclub, serving alcohol till 4 a.m. in a busy nighttime economy area with no security on the door, we as police would be remiss if we just allowed anybody to have a license to operate till 4 a.m. in the morning. We're not talking about a daytime fete with people that are, walking around a school with children, etc. We're talking about late night clubbing. They've asked for regulated entertainment, sale of alcohol, etc. So that's our concern. So whether it's Mr. Steele or a member of the public running it, you're talking about fitting the hours and the operation around what their expertise is or experience, and there isn't any. So
that would be under the public nuisance and public safety.
Yeah, absolutely. That would be spot on.
Yeah, that was what I was asking.
Yeah, that's fine, Councillor.
So, thank you very much. I suggest that we bring in Mr. Steele now, if that's okay. So, Mr. Steele, apologies for having you wait so long, and thank you very much for being so patient. If you could just, for no more than about 5 minutes or so, just tell us why you think that this subcommittee should allow the 10 to go ahead, then we'll be very grateful.
Thank you. Appreciate the opportunity, and good evening, everybody. Well, you probably saw us sitting here shaking our heads because a lot of what PC Hunswick has said is inaccurate. I am one of the leaseholders of the premises, which we've had for some time. We've got Mr. Chewett there, who has actually met and been to the premises previously himself to view what we do here. We only operate on 10s. We are not a nightclub per se. We don't have activities going on every day of the week. We are a venue that people basically rent for having their functions. We do have the odd activity here. Now, we have a premises license application actually pending and has been pending for some time. At the last subcommittee hearing where I applied to have a function for my partner for her birthday, the subcommittee hearing was had, leaving us with little or no time to be able to put it on. I withdrew it because of what was being said. Yes, that is true. Now, where PC, I beg your pardon, is it Hunswick? PC Hunswick has said there have been numerous occasions. We have never, ever had a 10 refused. In the last subcommittee hearing, it was read out, and I still have it here, from Environmental Health, there we have had in the previous 2 years over 20 10s, all of which, apart from 2 till 4 o'clock, they were never refused. The police objected to a couple of them. We answered the objection and it was granted. We have never, ever had one refused. I would like to make that clear, please. Okay, it is here. Secondly, just 1 second, sorry. The police seemingly have an issue with me. Fine, there's no issue with that. And what they have said is that they don't believe that I know the licensing laws adequately. We do have a DPS here. We also have, that DPS has a personal license. However, following the communication I've had with both the licensing authority and the police, we have taken it upon ourselves to get people in situ that do. I am moving away from this. We've got a manager in situ now who is an experienced bar and club manager. She happens to be sitting here alongside me at the moment. Yeah. So if the police has a question mark over me, the people around me and who are responsible for this venue certainly have the adequate qualifications to do so, and they are here. Pertaining to this specific 10, the young man sitting alongside, I don't know this young man from Adam. He applied, having gone to several venues, and there is an issue with people of color getting venues in this location for their activities. This young man went to several places, could not find anywhere. He was recommended to come here. He did so. He is here. You can speak with him in a moment. His birthday happens to be on the 28th of August alongside his mother's. He wanted to do a surprise for his mother along with himself for that day. We do risk assessments. I discussed it with Michelle, who is newly joined us as manager. And we said, there's no reason why we can't do this. I've said I've recently discussed with the police that future 10s has to be applied for. And it wasn't the police that said this. I suggested this, that to build up trust with the police, I would do this. I myself would go and apply for a personal license, which I'm actually sitting this week. Okay, putting that aside, this young man has applied. As I've said in the correspondence, which I believe, I'm not sure if Miss Williams is still with us. I've sent the communication to her so that she could see the correspondence I had with the police. At no time did the police tell me or suggest to me that I should do this. I suggested it to the police to try to rebuild trust with them. In the meantime, I've employed a young lady to manage the bar. So there should be no disputes with regards to ability to run these functions. We only survive on tens or private events or social functions. That's what we do. We are not a nightclub per se. Please, if you wish to question the young man, he's here.
Well, before we do that, have you considered applying for a license for this venue? Because it sounds as if you have very regularly have licensable activity happening there.
We have, Chair, and there is an issue with this. There's one pending at the moment. It's been pending for almost 2 years. It was applied for. There was issues with regards to the decisions coming out when Mike Smith was in situ. Police didn't turn up at the first one. The committee wanted the police to turn up at the second one. So we've had numerous issues with regards to getting these premises licensed. However, we've persevered, and we're at the point here now where it's suggested that we try to have meetings with the police, build trust with them, and move forward. One of the suggestions is that they do not have confidence and faith in myself. So I am moving aside, albeit I want my name cleared and why I'm still going ahead with the application in my name. But I have alongside me a very experienced manager, and we also have another DPS and personal license on site.
Can I ask whether your new bar manager has a personal license?
She does. She's here.
Hiya. I got my personal license I applied for it in Haven in 2006. I've been manager.
Mr. Steele, we can't see your manager. We can't see her. Move the screen along, please.
I am tiny, so hi. Yeah, so I have about.
Could you lean forward? We can't see you properly.
Sorry, you see me now?
Yes.
All right, so I've been in the catering business since 2004. 2006, I used to live in Chichester, Haven, West Sussex. I've applied for a personal license there. I've been general manager at bars. I've had events, spaces, done pop-up. So I believe I'm quite experienced. Yeah.
Okay. And you're employed as a bar manager at the venue?
At the moment, I help Mr. Steele with his admin, his paperwork. And when we do get our tender functions, I am on site.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Tituzolele, did you have anything you wanted to add? You don't need to. Good.
Well, obviously, I'm the hostess to the birthday party, so I was just basically applying. Like I've been to so many clubs, and just to do like a little private party for just me and my family and my friends, because it's been a long year. We've been stuck at home. I just want to have like a small gathering with my family and friends.
Yeah.
At this place here, at this venue here. And obviously Mr. Steele has been he's motivated me to do something here. So because I like this place as well. It's like a nice private place. It's not nothing too loud, or do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Thank you. Ms. North, you had your hand up?
Yes, I was just going to ask the new bar manager. Where was she last working? You know, how recently was she working in a premises, other events?
The last bar was a gin parlor, and this was in Islington. This is in 2019. I left there when I went on maternity leave, and I only recently started to get back into the workforce.
Okay,
it was 2019. You're welcome.
And just sorry, one other question through the chair. Chair, I don't know if you want to ask the premises user whether or not, although they want to have a party, is this where they're planning to sell alcohol, or is this, you know, I don't know how is it going to be like a party where they provide the alcohol?
Mr. Steele, before you come in on that, Mr. Stewart, I understood that the premises license had been applied for, and that the applicant had asked for that to be that application to be stayed.
Yeah, that's the recollection I have of that particular application. That it was it's been deferred on the applicant's request for some time.
Okay. PC Homework, is your hand up in relation to something that we're talking about here?
Yes, twofold. Yes, it was deferred at the applicant's request. Secondly, I was just wanted to ask the gentleman that's actually the premises user. Mr. Steele said he didn't know him, but yeah, he's just said that this place has always been a quiet place to drink. So
I never said that. I never said that.
no, he did, because this is all recorded. So I just wondered if you could just clarify. You said it's always been nice and quiet.
That would be helpful.
I did not say that, Mr. Hundred.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I just picked up on. As I say, it's all been recorded, so you can easily clarify.
I didn't say nothing about drinking a private place to drink.
So you have been there before then? Is that? Can you just clarify?
I've never been there before.
Never met him.
I've never been there before.
Okay, that's fine. I just need to clarify.
So, Mr. Steele, if you could clarify the point that Ms. North raised, and maybe what's going on with the premises license application as well, that'd be.
Yeah, absolutely. There was quite a few problems with regards to communication between myself and the licensing department. As I said, when Mike Smith was at the helm there, there was instances where we should have been notified so that we could respond and have it taken to a higher source. That didn't come. I've got several correspondences between myself and Mr. Smith, which I'm happy to submit. I again emailed the licensing authority earlier this year to ask, what is the situation going forward with the license application. I was told it's possible to go ahead by video link if we wished. The gentleman that's representing me or helping me with this is a Mr. Keith McIntosh, and he's requested that we would need to do the application face-to-face, basically, because we have other people that we wish to bring forward. We thought it would be better if we were face-to-face as opposed to video links. So that's the only thing that's pending at the moment, was holding up our continuation of that application process.
Okay, thank you very much. And there was a point from Ms. North about whether you're planning to serve alcohol at this event?
Yes. Well, do you want to answer that?
Yeah. What Mr. Steele told me, he's gonna sell some alcohol that day.
Yeah. He wants to rent the venue.
Mr. Steele, the camera's not on him, so we can't see him very well.
Yeah. So what Mr. Steele confirmed to me that he's gonna sell some alcohol. He's gonna sell alcohol on that day. So I'm just renting out the venue just so I can have my private event.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mr. Steele is selling the alcohol at the event.
Yes.
Yes. The premises. Yeah.
The premises. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. I think we're probably moving into the discussion phase, and I've got Councillor David and Councillor Bouvier to come in. But Ms. North, is this related to what
I was just going to say is, I assume it's not Mr. Steele selling the alcohol himself, but his bar manager probably would be selling it.
Yes.
Because obviously Mr. Steele doesn't have a personal license.
But this is an event that you're.
Yeah. Okay.
That Mr.
Sorry,
Steele,
he doesn't have to have a personal license. Sorry, yeah. But
in any case, this is an event that Mr. Steele you're organising.
Correct. The gentleman rented the venue, and his guests are going to purchase alcohol at the bar.
From you.
From me personally, but from our bar that's here.
From your business.
Correct. And can I just sort of clear up a point here? I am one of the leaseholders of this business here. The other leaseholder, who I'm in partnership with, does have his personal license and is the DPS here, which is on the premises license application.
Yeah, but this is an event that you're putting on essentially. Mr. Dituzolele is your client. Is that right?
Correct. He's the client. Yes.
I'm the one that's hosting it.
Okay. I will. Bring in Councillor David, if that's okay.
Yeah. Thank you, Chair. A couple of issues which came up, which I would like to clarify. So, for example, how regular are events in that area? is this, I don't understand what the business model is, but since you say it's not a permanent club per se. And then secondly, I think this would probably be for PC Hunwick and Miss North. Do we have evidence of this several applications which have been refused or rejected? Because if I do recollect what PC Hunwick said, a number of applications had been refused. Do we have some written documentary on that?
Councillor, Ms. North.
We don't have that documentary to hand, that information to hand, because we're only considering this event today. We're not considering the previous matters, and that hasn't been provided for today.
Yeah, but the point is, it has been raised here, and it's an issue that would be playing on the minds of people making a decision about a particular application. So if that is an allegation which has been made and it's unfounded, then it shouldn't have been said here in this meeting.
I'm not sure that PC Hunwick did say that, did he? He said that there was an application early August that was heard on the 3rd, and then it was withdrawn, and there are a number of other applications, about 10s, that are pending at the moment. So, Mr. Zeal, before I bring you in, PC Hunwick, could you clarify?
There is currently the permanent. There is an application for a full licence, which is being stayed at the applicant's request. But there are, I believe, from my colleagues who have been on the licence unit longer than I have, and perhaps Mr. Chewett can clarify on this, a number of previous full applications by Mr. Steele that have been declined at subcommittee.
Oh, okay. Mr. Chewett, can you clarify?
I guess, Chair, I'd only be speaking off the top of my head without looking at our records. I do recall maybe there have been some applications that Mr. Steele's either made or been involved with that have been refused. And when I say applications for premises licenses, but the exact details I would have to look at our records.
Okay, and Mr. Steele, you appear to disagree with what's being said here.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm a bit animated, but there are things that are being said here that's not accurate. I've never had a temporary license refused, ever. There was the object.
Mr. Steele, what about full license applications here, not temporary event notices?
Yeah, I think that's what we're talking about.
Well, can I just go back a second? I think Councillor David raised the question with regards if there's evidence with regards to documentation with previous 10s that have been refused, as you mentioned. My answer to that question is there's never been any that has been refused, ever. Yeah, and I'm going back 4 years. None that have been refused. With regard to the premises license, information, as I stated at the very beginning, when the first application went in, the police were not present. The committee at the time, and that was on their own choosing. The committee then said, well, we would really like to hear from the police, because the police had written in to object to certain points within regards to the application. They did not attend the meeting. The chair thought they ought to be there, and that meeting was postponed till another time.
Are you talking about the currently pending premises license?
As I say, this is going back over 2 years. This is when it started. Yeah.
And have you been involved in, or have you made any applications for full premises licenses that have been refused?
Not refused.
Okay.
Pending.
Can I just jump in and ask one more question? Because there was another issue which was raised about your selling alcohol without a license.
Absolutely.
Is that the case?
Thank you.
Is that true?
Thank you so much for asking that question. That was untrue. What happened, and this was raised at the last subcommittee hearing, on the day of the European Cup final between England and Italy, my son, along with his football club, asked if they could come and watch the match at the premises. As I said, we don't use the premises a lot. I agreed to that. Unbeknown to me, my son put a board outside advertising that people could come in to watch the match for £15 which obviously is against the licensing. I was not aware of that. However, I said at the subcommittee, I hold my hand up because it's my venue and I should have been made aware of it. That was that situation. The second situation on the 31st of July, we have a social club. Most of the people that attend here are elderly people from the age of 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, and 80. And we do different social events here. That's the only activities that we do. Those people have paid a membership for the year, and we do little things like bingo, chess, karaoke. Those are the things that we do. On that night that the police came here, we opened the door to the police because we saw them on the camera, fully closed. We opened the doors and they came on down. They came to the bar and said, "Why has that lady got 2 drinks in her hands?" I said, "Well, and can I see the last till receipt?" I said, "Of course you can." I presented the till receipt, and all of this is in writing and been sent to the licensing department, so they should have it. The till receipt clearly showed that she had purchased food, and those drinks were from the bar. I've got my manager here, yeah?
So
at no time were we caught selling alcohol. At no time at all.
On neither of those occasions, you were selling alcohol?
On neither of no, admittedly, as I said, my son did sell alcohol to his club mates, which was wrong.
Okay. PC Harmon, I do see that you're jumping at the bit to come in, but Councillor Pluvier has been waiting a very long time, so I'd quite like to bring her in. We can come back to you in a minute.
Just to check, just to clarify, Mr. Steele, you said where are we up to with this business that operates in number 8 with another leaseholder? And what's the business called?
Club number 8.
Club number 8. Okay, and that yourself is a director of that, and another.
No, I'm the only director of that.
Okay, and club number 8 is a leaseholder of this premises.
My partner is the leaseholder, Mr. Kasim Erdogan.
So he's the leaseholder. So what is club number 8's situation with regard to premises?
That between myself and him are the leaseholders. The premises, the business is in my name as director. He just assists in the business. He's here for all the functions as DPS and as a license holder. But we don't have regular events. We only rent it out because we haven't got a premises license. So we only hire it out to people.
I know that. I understand that. There's a business here that has applied for a premises license.
Correct.
And that business is club number 8.
Well, it's in my name personally, but
okay. But your name is not on the lease. You're not the leaseholder.
No, my business partner is the leaseholder.
But your business partner is not involved with club number 8.
No, he's not. Only as the DPS and the license and the personal license. He's here at every function.
Okay. Okay. How long has club number 8 been operating at 8 Stoke Newington Road?
The business hasn't always been called club number 8. It's been called club number 8 for about 3 years.
Okay, so how long has your business been operating there then? I mean, how long have you been running events there?
About 4 years.
4 years, okay.
Since we applied for the premises license.
And so you apply for how many tens in that time, approximately?
Prior to the pandemic, and again, as was sent to the licensing committee that objected to the last 10 that we do, we supplied information that showed that we'd had in the previous 2 years, we'd had 20 tens, all of which there's been no issues with. They were all granted, and there's never been. I've got the letter here from Environmental Health.
No, I'm absolutely happy with that. That's not a problem. And so that's 20 in 2 years before the pandemic, and so
Correct.
now you're trying to set this business up again.
Correct.
I mean, my concerns are that it's not clear who's responsible for this premises. So when events are held there, it's not clear to me who is actually legally liable for fire escapes, toilets, whatever. But putting that aside, have you run other premises in Hackney, licensed premises?
No.
Okay. I think I'm sort of a bit clearer. So thank you for that. That's great. Oh, yeah, no, that's fine. Thanks.
Okay.
Just to continue, continue that line of questioning a little bit. Will you have security staff?
We always have security, as is stated in the temporary application when we apply for it. What we've done in the past is that some of the temporary event notice applications we've done as the premises. Some people haven't been able to do it, and we've done that for them. But generally, we ask people who want to have a function here to apply.
And who will employ those security staff?
We do.
Is that number 8?
Correct.
The company.
Correct.
And will the company employ the staff, the other staff on the premises?
Everybody that's working on the night is employed by club number 8. Yes.
Okay. Thank you. PC Honeck, can we hear from you again?
Yeah. Thank you, Chair. Just to clarify, I was one of the officers that attended on the 11th of July when we first found unlicensable or licensable activity taking place. There was indeed a sandwich board outside the front of the premises, which is what brought our attention to the premises. However, it's a bit disingenuous for Mr. Steele to say that he was unaware that his son was selling the alcohol, as he was behind the bar when we descended the stairs. And we've got him on body-worn camera standing there whilst a member of his staff is ringing up the sales of alcohol on his till. On the second occasion, a number of my colleagues went into the bar, and indeed, hot food was being sold by Mr. Steele, but that was after 11 o'clock, which makes it licensable activity. That was in addition to the tab that he was running up for the alcohol to be settled up by the premises or the person that booked the venue later, which again is licensable activity.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Steele. Sorry.
Sorry, just one more point. Sorry. Mr. Steele, you say you've never run a previous venue in Hackney.
I've not had a premises license in Hackney. Yes, we did. Sorry. Yes, we did. We had one till 1 o'clock. Yes, I beg your pardon.
You did. Yeah. Where was that, Mr. Steele?
Mount Drive.
Okay. What happened to that license?
We left our lease run out.
What happened to the actual premises license? I believe it was revoked, wasn't it? A subcommittee.
No, it wasn't revoked.
Okay, Mr. Steele, did you have anything that you wanted to say in response?
Yes, so just to respond to PC Hunswick, you were one of the officers. The person I spoke to wasn't yourself. As I said, I was not aware of the board going outside because I came through the back entrance.
Yeah, when I was at the board, Mr. Steele, you were behind the bar when alcohol was being sold, and that's the point.
Absolutely not. That was not the case, and we can verify that with the cameras because I have them also.
Thank you, Councillor David.
Following on one of the questions of Councillor Peters in terms of security, so how many security are they SIA licensed, and how many are you expecting to be there should in case you for this event, and what's the capacity in terms of number of people you are expecting? I see that we have taken a considerable number of time discussing past issues, but then I think let's go through this as well.
Okay, to answer your question, all our security officers are all SIA officers. For this event, I think it is 50 people. I can't remember.
50 plus.
50 plus people, and for that we normally have 2 to 3 SIA officers as well as a steward on hand.
Okay. Thank you. So I think we probably have a very good grasp of all the issues here. And I propose to bring the discussion phase to an end. And Mr. Steele, do you have any final summing up points? You don't need to.
Sure. Just very, very briefly. I know we've been here a long time, and I apologise it's taken this long. But we are an honest organisation that do a lot for older members of the community in our community. We do lots of social activities for them. They have nowhere else to go, and that's what we've been doing. Lots of those people celebrate their events here, whether it's a funeral, a birthday, just had a wedding reception. We do those things here for our community, and that's what we've been doing. We don't do anything untoward. Yes, we have made some mistakes, but we've genuinely tried very, very hard to work with the police to try to rectify them. You were at the, I'm afraid that he's not here now, but myself and Mr. McIntosh had a meeting at the police station with them, where it was said, and it's on record, that we're not going to oppose your premises license. We're not going to oppose this. You need to work with us, which we have tried to do. So I do not understand, what's a bit infuriating, I'm sorry to use that word, but it is a bit infuriating, is the police refer to numerous times and on time and time again, and it has never happened. It has never happened. I asked the question of the last chair. I would welcome asking you, Chair, the same question. If we have had unlicensable and unlawful events that the police have attended, why has it not been stopped by the police? That's never happened.
So I understand that they did on the evening of the Euro football
They didn't
final.
stop it. No, they left. We took the board down and they left. We continued watching the match.
Okay. Thank you. PC Hunwick, do you have anything to say in summary?
No, only not. I mean, we were only like 3 licensing officers with a club full of people, so there wasn't really the resources, given the England match was on, to do anything about it.
With respect, there was 20
the
people.
local authority's responsibility to prosecute unlawful sales, and so that's not. Although we've found the evidence, provided the evidence, it's ultimately for the local authority to prosecute that. Other than that, I think really the chair and councillors have seen what they've seen, heard what they've heard. I don't think there's really anything that we need to summarise. Clearly, Mr. Steele was running this event. By his own admission, it's his alcohol, his security, his. So, on the basis that his previous, failures with regards to unlicensed activities, we'd still submit that the 10 should be declined.
Okay, thank you very much. Councillor Cludier and Councillor David, do you need any further clarification on one thing that we've heard here?
Yes, just a question with regards to, I from what PC Hunwick has just said, it's the responsible authority to prosecute. Was any submissions made for such prosecutions in terms of the evidence being put for?
I think that's probably a question for Mr. Hewitt, isn't it?
I'm aware of an incident that took place or is alleged to have taken place on the night of the Euro 2020 final, but we've not had any statements or evidence in so far as to open a case that would present to legal for prosecution.
Okay, thank you, Ms. North.
I just wanted to clarify through the chair, following what PC Hanwick has said, although the premises user for this application is not Mr. Steele, that doesn't make any difference to PC Hanwick's representation. He's still, although it's not Mr. Steele who has made.
This is a question for PC Hanwick, I assume.
Yes, yeah.
Did you hear that, PC Hanwick?
Sorry, I didn't quite understand the question. Is it
the fact that the premises, the 10 was applied for by the premises user, who's not Mr. Steele? That doesn't make any difference. That it's a different person.
No, but as I say, it might as well be by proxy. The whole point was just changing the name. That Mr. Steele is the one that's organising or is running the event.
Okay.
Somebody else is. I get somebody else has made that booking, but to transfer that responsibility onto his client because he's not able to get a temporary event notice himself. Irrespective if he got temporary event notices in the past, we're talking about the fact that very recently he's been found twice in the space of 3 weeks carrying out unlicensed activity, and it's on that basis that we've declined to accept the 10.
Okay.
Okay. If I could just, sorry, Chair. If I could just ask again, because we've spoken about the who's running and who's not running, but out of the statutory criteria, could you just summarize which one and how the impact, affects granted this application or not? I mean, put in a notice or not for this application.
Yeah, Councillor. I mean, through the chair, all I would state is that obviously the basis of our objection initially is on the basis that Mr. Steele was going to run it, and he's been proven repeatedly to be irresponsible in his operations, and has been had various applications refused. The applicant, although his name is on the temporary event notice, he has no experience of running events himself. And so, if you then put the onus on him to be responsible under the temporary event notice, then he's not able to fulfil his obligations to prevent crime and to protect the public. So, on both counts, we have no option but to object.
Mr. Dituzolele,
Yeah, Dituzolele.
Have you run any licensed premises in the past?
No, but I've done like little house parties and that's
okay.
It. Yeah, this is just like an event. This whole basically, it's like obviously because we're out of the lockdown, so I'm sure we're allowed to do this. Do you know what I'm saying? I've decided to just do like a small private event. It's not like an event that we're going to be selling tickets. Just a small private event with me and my family. That's it.
Okay, thank you very much. I do want to round off this item, Councillor David, before I
last point. Sorry, if I get it correctly, forgive me because your name's not on the screen, so I couldn't get it. The lady sitting down beside Mr. Steele, you do hold a license, and you are saying you're taking responsibility. You're helping in the running or something. If you could just clarify your role in the whole thing. I think that's correct.
Let me just move forward. Sorry. So at the moment, I'm helping with the admin and dealing with the clients, speaking to them, showing them the space. And when events do come through, when we do get our tents, then I'll be on site to sell alcohol because I do have a personal license and loads of experience.
Okay, thank you very much. So we'll have to consider everything that we've heard here. We'll do that at the end of this meeting, and you should have the result of our deliberations by the end of tomorrow, I'm told.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
No, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. So the next agenda item is also 8 Stoke Newington Road. This is for an event taking place between the 4th and the 5th of September, I understand. Mr. Stewart.
Thank you,
Mr.
Chair.
Steele, could you go on mute, please?
Oh, I beg your pardon, sorry.
Thank you, Chair. So members asked to consider temporary event notice given in respect of a proposed event at the premises, again at number 8 Stoke Newington Road. This event is proposed to commence from 9 PM on the 4th of September and conclude at 4 AM on the 5th of September. Licensing service received an objection notice from the police, which is in today's agenda at Appendix B, and the temporary event notice is in today's agenda at Appendix A. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. PC Heinrich, I see that the application, the objection is in much the same terms as the previous one. There does seem to be a slight addition at the end as well. Is there anything you want to say over and above what we've just discussed?
No, I mean, for the sake of brevity, I would only add that this is only today being shown that there's a personal license holder involved. We've not obviously been able to check out that they have a personal license. We've not been able to check out what venues they've run, etc. We've always engaged with all premises wherever possible. So this has only been thrown in at the last minute. With regard, this is probably something moving forward that we need to have a meeting with everybody to see exactly what the new structure is going to be, certainly with regards to there being an application in, but with regards to the actual temporary event notices, I mean, this is all thrown upon us at the last minute, so we're not able to comment as to whether that has any effect. So our submission is the same, and obviously we've heard everything we've just heard. I think in the absence of the actual premises user being here, obviously Amanda will comment as to whether anything more needs to be said.
So thank you. We, as I say, we don't have the premises user here. So, Mr. Steele, I'll let you come in after Miss Williams has spoken, if that's okay.
Just to advise that just before the subcommittee started, I have received correspondence from the premises user notifying me that she's happy for Mr. Steele to speak on her behalf.
Is that Miss Blair or Miss Monfries?
This is from Miss Yankini
Blair.
Blair, yes.
Okay. In which case, Mr.
And from Miss Monfries as well. I've received 2.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Steele, in which case, is there anything that you want to say, and bearing in mind that the objection from the police is very much in the same terms as the previous license, attempt, rather?
There's not much to add. This is another person who had a function here 2 or 3 years ago, who has applied to have a birthday party here. As I say, we do birthday parties and social events for families who wish to have their events here, and this is just another one of those.
And do you know whether either of those people has any experience of operating licensed premises?
No, because on the last occasion they had a function here, our DPS and personal license holder was here who ran the event, as will be the case this time, if it's granted.
Thank you very much. So I propose to move on to the discussion phase, which I don't suspect we need much of, if anything. Looking at Councillor Plouvier and Councillor David. No, in which case we will deliberate on this 10 as well, and also we will come back to you with a decision by the end of tomorrow. In which case, it just sorry.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. So it just remains for me to thank you for coming, and we will need to deliberate. So, if you could leave the meeting, that would be helpful.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Good night.
Right.